The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program that gives us a chance to talk to reporters and writers and editors, and I underscore that because that's one of the segments we're going to do. And every now and then we take a look backwards and look at some of the best of programs that we have done, and that's what we're going to do for this holiday week. And so the first segment comes to us, ironically, from January 6th, but 2022. And we spent a little time with the executive editor at City Limits, Jeanmarie Evelly, and she was talking about food insecurity and the fact that the pandemic, the bulk of it is over, but we still have food insecurity in the Bronx. So let's go back to January 6th, 2022. Jeanmarie Evelly, executive editor at City Limits on the Bronx Buzz. Hey there, nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and journalists and anybody who's putting stuff out. And that does include photographers, filmmakers, book writers. And in our second segment, it will include comic book creators. So we're going to do that. But to start, we're going to get real serious and real important first with the executive editor of City Limits. We're thrilled that Jeanmarie Evelly has found time in her busy week to spend a few moments with us. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, Gary. Nice to be here. Thanks.
So you did a story, a heightened food insecurity in New York City likely to persist long after pandemic wanes, experts say. And I will just introduce it with my own impression. It's just disgraceful. If maybe even before housing, the fundamental responsibility of a proper society is to make sure people have enough to eat. And we really have, I mean, they call it food insecurity. You can call it hunger. You can call it whatever you want. So what did you discover? The numbers that I saw in your article are bone chilling.
Yeah, well, that story in particular was specifically about a report that was put out by one particular organization that does food rescue, and they salvage food. It's called City Harvest. You've probably heard of them. They've been around for a long time. Yeah, so they've been around for several decades, and they put out a report just about their kind of operations in 2021. And that was specifically the numbers, was looking at their kind of output in serving food pantries and in serving, meeting the need for hunger across the city in this over the last year. But we have been reporting on hunger as an issue, obviously, throughout the pandemic, first in response to kind of the immediate shutdown during the early days of 2020, when I think a lot of people, it was very visible at the time, right? Because I think there were a lot of these very visible kind of food pantry lines that we saw everywhere in places like the Bronx.
I think people were shocked. Their jobs were gone, and they were like, whoa, and I just don't have money right now. It was before the various governmental subsidies, which you note have had a positive impact. And so, yes, the lines were long, and it was like, oh my goodness, it's, the 1920s stock market crash all over again.
Exactly. So that has been something that obviously, and hunger's been an issue, and food insecurity was an issue in New York and, across the country before the pandemic, but the pandemic obviously increased that need exponentially. And what this story really looked at was just how that need persists and sort of how stubborn it is. So the City Harvest contact that I spoke to, the executive director there, was saying that in their work, for example, after the 2008 economic crash, the food insecurity levels that they experienced after that economic downturn really took, she said, almost a decade to recede again.
Wow.
So even, after the kind of inciting incident that might cause that need to skyrocket, recedes into the background a little bit and isn't making headlines anymore, the need is still there. And she was saying how they finally got the numbers back down to sort of that pre-recession, 2008 recession, and then COVID hit. And then obviously it went back up.
So, well, the numbers that you quoted from the City Harvest report, that they gave out more than 14 million pounds of food in June 2020. And I mean, that's an incomprehensible number.
Yeah.
And they distributed more than 11 million pounds of food every month. So it's 11 million pounds every month, which is more than twice their regular output, which was like 5.5 million.
Yeah,
And so
and this is just one organization. So if you think about what kind of all these networks of kind of food rescue systems, obviously the city of New York had its own food emergency response program, setting up food centers at schools in those kind of first bunch of months. So that was their output. And one of the striking things that she was describing to me too is how they, this isn't a group that normally purchase food themselves. They're a nonprofit. They usually do what they call food rescue, which is take unused surplus food from restaurants or farms and things like that and repurpose it for food pantries. But they have kicked in their kind of emergency plan, I guess you could say, when the pandemic started, and they've been purchasing food every month and have spent a significant amount in addition to the normal amount of food they would.
Yes, because the donations they would get, let's say from farms and restaurants, used to be somewhat sufficient.
Yeah.
But now the need is so great, so there has to be funding and other things. There's a number in there that unless I'm not understanding, the number of people in New York City metro area unable to afford enough food peaked at 6.219 million in May of 2020. If you've got 8 or 9 million people in the city, that's 2/3 of the city. I somehow to me, maybe the number is wrong. That just seems like a lot. and if it is a lot, wow, it's it's startling. I do want to I want to mention this, and I guess everything is your personal experience. I was walking, and the area because you know the Bronx well. I was at 242nd Street and Broadway. I'd come out. I was walking through Van Cortlandt Park, and there's one of those friendly fridges over there right, and these are just people trying to help other people. So the refrigerator is there, and people come by and donate food, and they even, like you'll see here, they get a Cobb salads from a restaurant that's got leftovers or made too much and didn't sell it, and those kinds of things. But to stand there, when a subway comes, because that's a pretty big transit hub. When the subway empties out, and watch people come off the subway and go right to the fridge, it as I said, it's just it's a disgrace. So here's a question that you and I can conspire, and we get the problem solved. How do we deal with this? Well, it seems to me it takes a village and all that. We talk about donations, we talk about restaurants, but it's poverty, right? This is the bottom line. Poverty and jobs and all that.
I think it's again one of those kind of interwoven economic issues. And just to touch on that number that you mentioned, that's the stat for the New York metro area. So that includes like New Jersey.
All right, so it's out of 20 million.
Connecticut. It's kind of the tri-state area.
That's how you got.
Just double checked it.
No, but I have to say that's how you got to be the editor, and I'm just
just making sure. I was like, did I get it wrong?
Perfect.
So the way that the sources were talking to me about it was that food becomes. I think the way that she described it was it's like this elastic expense, right? So especially right this month, we're going to have the state's eviction moratorium is going to end. If you are somebody who is on a very, very tight budget, you are not going to skip paying rent if you can swing it, right? But you might skip your grocery bill or cut back on that. Food is kind of the thing that people, I think, they make that cut first, which obviously has huge implications for health and well-being outside of that. But I think there is this kind of tendency to do that when you're in a tough spot, is that maybe you're going to pull back on the food.
So you don't buy, a nicer meat in the store, let's say, and you'll go to a TV dinner, which you can buy a half a dozen of those for whatever.
Yeah, or maybe you're going to skip a meal, or parents who will skip meals so that their kids can have a meal. That sort of.
When people are tight, they say, well, I'll skip lunch this week. That kind of thing. That is a very, very good point. One thing which you did mention, and goodness, that's another whole show, and I'm sure you or your staff will do writing on it, is the whole idea of the eviction moratorium.
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be any extension or this is it.
We're keeping tabs on that for sure. I know that obviously, it's yet to be determined whether or not I'm sorry, my dog is like growling. He wants me to pick him up. So I apologize
He might be hungry.
Noises in the background. It's my dog.
He might be hungry.
It's not me. He probably is. But I know that lawmakers are pushing for this good cause eviction bill this legislative session, and they're hoping that that could also help keep people in their homes. It'll make it harder for landlords to evict tenants without having to show cause. So we'll see. I think it ends the 15th. So
what was instructive in your piece was, and I'll just quote right from it, experts say the hunger crisis could have been worse were it not for the number of government benefit and relief programs that were rolled out in response to the COVID crisis. I understand it costs money. What costs more? It's like this situation with people not being able to eat or saying, I mean, and I'm trying not to be political about it. I'm trying to be practical about it. And I see these regular Bronxites working and coming down and having to go to a fridge to get food for tonight.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I guess goes back, and you mentioned this was to the Biden Build Back Better plan, because there would be childcare money and all kinds of other things in there that would help needy families.
Yeah, I think that's one thing the report really spelled out, was that those earlier benefits really did help kind of alleviate what would have been a lot worse in terms of need.
Do you have now City Harvest did that report. Do we have a sense of how bad in the Bronx? I know there are so many organizations, whether it be WEDCO or Bronx Works and all these other groups that are, working on this. Do we have a sense of, or we just make the assumption we're on a lower end economically and health-wise, and so
I don't
we
know.
have it worse?
I was actually trying to find that right before we got on this phone call. I was looking at some of the.
You knew I would ask.
So I don't have those hard numbers in front of me at the moment, and I don't have recent ones. But I do know that the Bronx's unemployment rate is the highest out of all the boroughs too. Yep. So obviously that feeds into the issue of like who can afford what, and it definitely, like we said, it's very interconnected. All these different things.
Right, and here we are, first week of January. We're going to take a look at that and circle that January 15th date, because that is a date that things might change. Talk to me about what's your day like? What are you working on, and what's next for City Limits that we should look for?
City Limits. So we are obviously, we just had a big piece that came out today. If you want to check it out, I believe one of my coworkers had been on your show earlier in the month to talk about part of our series, which is looking back on the impact of the de Blasio rezonings that took place earlier in his term.
Of course.
SA, I think, came on to talk about the Jerome Avenue rezoning and the reporting that she did on that.
That's right.
It's not Bronx related, but we have a big story out today related to the impact of the East New York rezoning and talking about sort of how that impacted home prices in that neighborhood.
I beg to differ. A rezoning in another part of New York City is a Bronx story, because Eric Adams has not sworn off the concept, to say the least, and there's no question it's going to come our way soon enough. Okay, thank you to Jeanmarie Evelly. As we mentioned, that was a segment from January 6th of this year. And what we'll do, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll do the second part of our show. And a lot of times we talk to artists and musicians and others. And we have a fascinating artist that we're going to also look back to January of this year. And you'll be able to get to meet her. So don't go away. Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. This, to me, was a really fun segment with a very talented and outgoing and upfront artist. She is a writer, director, and executive producer of Bronx-ish. It's Bronx-ish. And she came on our show in January 27 to announce the premiere of their second season of this web series that's set in the Bronx and is about the adventures of a young woman and what she endures while chasing her dreams, like so many in the Bronx do. Let's take a look. Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We switch gears, we switch hats, and we say hello to Danielle Alonzo.
Hi.
Let's see now. Hi, Danielle. Dan, I'm just going to give the credits. We do the credits before the show in this case. She's a writer, director, and executive producer of Bronx-ish, which we're going to find out about. She has been cast in ABC's Diversity Showcase. She has had roles on CBS's FBI, on HBO's High Maintenance. I don't know if she is high maintenance. We'll find out in just a moment. Nice to see you, Danielle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. This is exciting. I am not high maintenance. I'm
Oh,
very
okay.
low maintenance.
She's
Yeah,
chill.
I'm
Okay. So talk to me a little bit just about you. You were just telling me about the first time you were ever in front of a camera or had this idea that you could be doing this sort of thing.
it didn't click again until after high school, but my mom did try when I was a young kid to put me in some things. I was around 2 or 3 and she tried to get me into modeling, and they put me in a private room. And when they took me back out, they told her she doesn't listen.
I have to tell you, I will applaud that because
Yeah.
you know who you're talking to.
Yeah, they said we can't
Tremendous.
control her. So then she tried again.
I have to interject. My son, we did the same with my son, and he was a little boy, and he went to they had him eat potato chips because of a potato chip, and they said, eat potato chips. He goes, why would I?
Yeah.
So that didn't work. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So she tried then. I didn't listen. And then about 9, they had like an Oscar Mayer commercial. They were holding it in the Bronx in like a supermarket parking lot. And I went out for that. Like, my baloney has a first name. Whatever. They didn't pick me. And
How could they not?
Huh?
How could they not?
That's what I'm saying. I did it. I mean, I was into it.
Right.
And then in high school, I went to a performing arts high school. So I did a little bit of vocal, a little bit of dance, and then I did improv. And
here we are today. So tell me about Bronx-ish.
So-
That's like Bronx, but Bronx-ish.
It's actually the expletive I can't say. So it's the stuff that happens in the Bronx.
Which
So-
all of our viewers can relate to, I'm sure.
Yes. So pretty much it follows me going after my career as an actor and all the adventures and all the stuff that I deal with, that I experience, all from my perspective. Living at home. I mean, first season, it was living at home and auditioning and getting pulled over by a cop and trying to flirt my way out of a ticket. I mean, that's just a day in the life of me living in the Bronx.
And, these photographs indicate that, it's not only that you are in front of the camera, but you're also kind of running the whole thing. At what point did you say, you know what, maybe I ought to do something with this, not just me trying to get roles and being on TV or films or whatever?
Well, I've always had a bit of a control issue. So that helped.
That's come up already 3 times. In our 4 minutes together.
I'm open about all my stuff. But I had always been a writer. But again, I never put it together that I would write in my career. I just always enjoyed writing. And then maybe 2014, I had seen some live acts of women doing one-woman shows and creating their own content. And I said, I can do that. I impersonate people all the time. I can do that. And so that's really how it started. In 2014, I had a one-woman show and I wrote it and directed it and performed it. And the success of it really gave me that confidence to know that, wow, I think I'm kind of good at it. There's something here. Let me continue that. And so I did it again in 2015, and that show was sold out. And then in 2017, I said, I want to make this a web series. I'm auditioning for other people's content, other people's student films. I said, I can do this. So that's really where the idea came from.
And you know what's so interesting to me is that, and we interview so many Bronx artists and filmmakers and photographers and everything else. Um, you, it's like your artwork has to be original because you have a story to tell that nobody else knows. We have 1.4 million people here, and I say this all the time: nobody knows who we are.
Mhm.
Nobody knows how we live. Nobody knows anything about us. Seems to me it's what characterizes our work as Bronx artists or Bronx performers very, very well. And I'm assuming this is what because what you have in season 2 of Bronx-ish are everyday things that we all, and I say we, our family in the Bronx, we
Mhm.
all deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I think I enjoy sharing my perspective, my world. I'm in season 2. You see me visiting my grandma, my Puerto Rican grandma. She came here when she was 9. You see me getting therapy. You know what that looks like. I moved out. That's a big thing that happened in season 2 that I was struggling with in season 1. So it's really following me on this journey of of acting. And I just share my world. I share my point of view. And a lot of New Yorkers, a lot of Bronx people, there's so many, yes, oh my God, that's so true. Oh my God, that happened to me. It's our world, it's our perspective that makes it special.
Uh,
It's
y-
hilarious.
there were a number of items. We'll review all of them right after. We're going to take a look at a trailer. But I just love this when you need therapy from your therapy. I love that. You leave your therapy session and you got to talk to somebody
That
because
really
I don't
happened.
know what's going. I'm sure it did. All right. So Bronx-ish season 2. We'll talk about where people can see it and everything else. But we're going to take a look. This is snippets, little trailer
Okay.
pieces of Bronx-ish from Danielle Alonzo. Let's take a look.
Oh, are you an actor? Yeah.
That's mi linda.
Aquí en la lucha.
It makes me feel like I'm not gonna get past this. Like I already see myself in a straitjacket.
If the shoe fits.
You never been to his house,
Never.
and he's asking you for money.
See, that's.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
Do you own the bike lane? Like, do you have stocks invested? Do you think this is Monopoly? Do you think this is Boardwalk, Park Place, Illinois, the railroads? I don't know.
All right, there we go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you first of all, before I ask more questions, where can people see it? Now season 2 is here. What do we got to do to
So
check
I
it out?
actually just dropped that trailer today.
Right.
So our YouTube channel is Bronx-ish, spelled out just the same way. Our Instagram, TikTok, all that, Facebook is Bronx-ish _. So just Bronx-ish _. You can find us on social media.
So the subjects that we have had summarized here: when you're an adult woman stuck with your mom in an apartment in New York City during the pandemic, how many of us? I mean, I would never have been an adult woman, but how many Bronx adult women know about that? When you finally move out and have to adult on your own, and when you need therapy from your therapy. When you walk down the block in the Bronx, or as you were growing up, do you visualize things and say, "Wow, this can be a segment"? I mean, it's like said they wrote their autobiography, and they said, "Where do you get your ideas from?" Well, from my life.
Yeah. It oftentimes does happen like that. There's characters all the time. I'm walking down the street, I'm on the bus, I'm driving, something happens. I usually record it on my phone or make a note of it. Like, this just happened. This is funny. And then other times I just make it up in my head. Like, this would be really funny if this happened. But pretty much everything I've written is stuff I've experience. The bike lane, I got in an argument with a lady walking in the bike lane, going to an audition. Someone on the train asking me about an audition as I'm really preparing. That's happened many times. Therapy, having a really bad therapy session when I need it the most, that has happened. So it's funny in hindsight, usually not funny in the moment.
When it happens.
Yeah.
And so I guess the quote unquote genius of it is being able to take that and turn that into something that communicates to people. I gotta ask you this. Everybody eats, which is staring us right in the face. What is
Yep.
that?
So that's actually a quote I got from a movie. That's a lot of my neighborhood people, my people we love. It's from Paid in Full, but it's it stands for everybody eats, everybody wins, everybody's gonna get money, everybody's gonna get it. There's enough for everyone, and I really do believe that, especially in the world of acting and an artist. Some people don't start because they think it's too hard and I'm not gonna get a chance. And no, life. God says there's enough for everyone. So
I had you and I were talking about it before the show, and I was saying it's everybody around the table. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. All right, so what's next for you? I mean, you've done this, and now you're just going to work on promoting it, or do you already start thinking about? Gee, I was on Bronx TV. We're going to make that a segment because that was.
This helps. We're so grateful. This definitely helps spreading the word, getting people to pay attention. We have creators, women, Afro-Latina creators, writing, directing, producing their own content. It's a lot of work. We still are accepting donations for post-production. My first episode is dropping 2/2/22 because my favorite number is 2. We'll be releasing one episode every week on YouTube, so they should definitely subscribe to the channel and just support creators, Bronx creators doing it.
Yeah, there's no question about it. So let's go to Bronx-ish on YouTube,
Yes.
and that's the way you're going to do it. How prolific are you? Do you create in your mind all the time? That's what I guess. I always love getting into an artist's muse.
So,
or at this point, you're not even going to think about it because you're working on other stuff. We got about 40 seconds for you.
Once this was done, I felt a release. I got it all out. But as the inspiration comes, I make a note of it. And before you know it, over time,
there you go.
I got content.
Yep. Listen, Danielle Alonzo, Bronx-ish. Let's check it out on YouTube. I'm definitely going to subscribe because I want to see all the cool stuff that comes out. Love to see what Bronx people are saying about our lives because nobody else is doing it. BronxNet does it. That's why we're here, and that's why we love to have you with us. And guess what? You do something else, we'll bring you back. That's how it'll work.
Thank you so much. This was great.
A pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to have you. And we obviously, BronxNet and me personally and Rebecca, our producer, we all are so enthusiastic about Bronx artists. So that's about it, folks. Okay, thanks to Danielle Alonzo for being with us on January 27th. And let's, hope everybody gets a chance to see Bronx-ish or behaves kind of Bronx-ish, Anyway, that's it for the Bronx Buzz tonight. And we'll be back with more next week. Have a good night.